evening and welcome to Beyond the Front Page, a show produced by Cayuga Community College for the spring 2017 semester here at the college. This is a show that is broadcast on Time Warner Communications, Verizon Fios, the Auburn Regional Media Access, ARMA, as well as WIN 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. Over the last several seasons, we have dealt on this show and tried to bring special focus on issues related to addiction, specifically heroin and the abuse of opioids. We've had representatives from law enforcement, treatment for professionals, and family members who have been impacted by addiction at one level or the other. Cayuga County has been greatly impacted by the abuse of those two particular items, but local officials have been trying to focus on the more global issue on a number of fronts, from education and prevention to treatment and criminal prosecution. One of the issues that most experts continually tout who have been in the studio has been this issue of prevention. With that in mind, local efforts have been made to find resources to expand those efforts. Recently, Cayuga County was awarded $400,000 over the next few years for the Cayuga County's Drug-Free Community Coalition. The grant will be administered through the not-for-profit Confidential Help for Alcohol and Drugs, better known as CHAD. And we've had Kevin Harris in the studio before with Ray Bizzari. In the fall, the County Coalition hired a new project coordinator, JOLYNN MULHOLLAND, who we have here in the studio to give us an update. And she's brought a guest with her, and it's Janice Freeman, who is the Community Development, I want to get your title correctly. Specialist. I can't read my own handwriting.
That's okay.
You are a resource that oversees.
We oversee 13 counties.
13, but you're responsible for Cayuga County,
yes,
which is new in this whole
yes
mix. Okay. Is it new in this mix from the perspective that it's funded compared to when it wasn't funded? Yeah,
the group actually has been around for the past 2 years, but they were just funded in September. Okay. And the funding actually comes from the White House. So over 100 new year ones were actually funded throughout the United States.
Okay. So let's talk about funding in a second. For those who may not know, you spoke at the Wednesday morning roundtable
yes,
about just 2 weeks ago this
yes,
week, and talked about what the Free Community Coalition is. For those who weren't there, because there were only about 100, what is that about?
Well, the Drug-Free Community Coalition is all about prevention and awareness and the community coming together to tackle different things. Our coalition started in July of 2013. They started to target the synthetic marijuana in the community with local law enforcement, community people like Kevin Harris from CHAD, Ray Bizzari from Mental Health, and other big, Jim Stoll, the undersheriff, a bunch of people in the community, and they removed the head shops that were selling the synthetic marijuana. And then from there, they worked towards actually getting funded. They were denied the first time around because it is a very intense process. As Janice said, only 100 applicants were awarded this money throughout the United States.
So with that, does that mean that does every county have a coalition, whether it's paid or unpaid?
Well, I wouldn't say every,
okay,
because not every county in New York does,
okay,
but I will say
they have to put
majority.
Resources and cooperate.
Yes, so they would have to find like a prevention provider such as CHAD, and they would have to have basically people that come to the table. So I mean, in New York, we have, with just us, we work with 13 counties, but we also have Brooklyn that has a coalition, and then we also have Upper and St. Lawrence counties as well.
And you cover Cayuga, Oswego, Cortland, and Onondaga.
Yes.
So most of what we would, in different shows, would call the Red Sea area.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you an employee of CHAD, or is this separate from CHAD? How is this
CHAD houses the grant, so
okay,
because they're the prevention provider.
So is your office at 75 Genesee?
Yes, I'm
okay,
housed in CHAD. The coalition themselves actually hired me as their project coordinator.
Okay, so with that in mind, for those who don't know, what is CHAD?
CHAD is Confidential Help for Drugs and Alcohol.
And what do they do?
They do outsource recovery treatment. So if you have a DWI, you're addicted to opioids, your child needs help, you can go them, and they're an outsourced treatment facility for outpatient.
And when Kevin Harris was at Wednesday morning roundtable 2 weeks ago, he talked a lot about just the issue of alcohol.
Absolutely.
Still being the number one killer. So from an organizational point of view, is there a board for the coalition?
Yes, actually.
How big is it?
We have about 30 members that sit on our general coalition mini.
So I know in your grant, because I read part of the grant that you were nice enough to send,
Yeah.
that was one of the goals, was to expand the size of the board.
Yes.
Yes.
So you've accomplished that.
Slowly we're getting that.
Okay, so not necessarily, are people on there by title? Are they there by interest?
Well, we have to have 12 sectors in order to be a funded grant.
I won't ask you what the 12 are, but could you give us some examples?
Yeah, it'd be medical, law enforcement, youth, parents,
community members,
communities,
healthcare,
business.
So I know Rob Forsey, the publisher of The Citizen's on there.
For media.
For your media sector.
Okay, Tim Donovan is
Community sector, yeah.
because he spoke the other day.
Stephen Crosby is our school counselor, guidance counselor from Auburn High School. He represents our school sectors.
Okay.
We have a Julia Boberg. She's a college student here at CCC. She's still classified as a youth for us because we classify youth up to the age of 19. She represents our youth coalition.
Okay.
We have...
Can I deviate from that for both of you for a second? In reading the report, there was a lot of pieces in the grant about reaching out to youth and getting them involved. A, how do you do that? Deal with how do you do it first, and then I'll come back with some follow-ups, because I know this has been an issue for some other not-for-profits. You get somebody who's really geared, they've either had a family member impacted, they've been impacted, and then once they have graduated or gone to a different school, kind of peters out, and then there's a vacuum. So how do you deal with that?
Well, I'm actually in the process of creating a youth coalition,
Okay.
so it's great you asked. Tomorrow, being Friday, is our first coalition meeting for the adults who want to participate with working with the youth. It's going to be at Cayuga County Mental Health in their conference room.
It's on North Street.
On North Street.
Okay.
From 12 to 1, so if anyone is interested in joining that, they're more than welcome to come and just say they're there to join the youth coalition meeting.
So they can be adults to join the youth coalition,
Yes,
but you're
to
also
supervise, yep.
Okay, but so then how are you going to try to, how do you get youth involved?
Then the next thing is tackling our youth, getting involved. I'm going to start reaching out to BTW, Booker T. Washington, the YMCA, the local schools. Pretty much my face is everywhere. The kids are starting to see me, the SAD programs. Really just getting the kids involved as much as I can. And our grant covers from 6th grade through 12th grade. So, you know, starting at those younger grades and hoping that we can keep them as they go on through school.
So for the other 3 counties that you supervised or reviewed, is youth retention an issue?
Not, I will say in Onondaga, it seems to be an issue, trying to find ways to get the children to want to be involved. I will say in Oswego, they have found ways that actually get their youth involved. They actually have a YC3 group, which is youth-led. And just from going to CACA...
YC3, I'm sorry.
It's short for a youth coalition,
okay,
but just from going from CACA, and you learn a lot, go through different trainings and workshops, you're really
going
more...
to Mississippi next week.
Yes.
Okay.
So she'll actually get more acquainted with how to bring youth to the table successfully, because they found that youth-run coalitions are actually the more successful.
Coalition of 501c3 on its own, or is it just
No, CHAD is the five.
Okay. So is this so is the board, whether it's the 30 members that you have, are they an advisory board of sorts?
Our advisory board would actually be our steering committee, which would be our 12 sectors. Our general board, it makes the whole decision. Kevin is our chair. Kevin Harris from CHAD is our leader, is our chair, and he's very good at making sure that all members of the board have their vote in what is being done and moving forward with.
So you came on in November?
Yes, end of November.
End of November. So before that, can you tell us a little bit about what the coalition was doing when they didn't have the grant and paid staff?
They were doing the synthetic marijuana.
That was their main
focus, and opioids,
And the
drop
opioids.
boxes, for people to go and drop off their prescription drugs that they're no longer using, because medicine cabinets are, as we have seen in trends, are their #1 source for youth to access and start their opioid addiction.
So 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was when we had the Undersheriff Stowell, and there was a story that had run in the Post-Standard about real estate agents saying, clear out your, if you're going to show a house, clear out your medicine cabinet. They all came on, and this is not criticism, they all thought, I think and I asked this of Ray Bazzari when he was on a couple weeks ago, we all thought that this would burn itself out.
Yeah.
And I think collectively the whole state has thought it would burn itself out. Why hasn't it?
That is actually a really great question.
The perception.
I get paid
The
just to ask
perception.
that question.
Well, yes, because if you think about the perception of harm, a lot of when doing our surveys, a lot of the youth, they don't find it as a problem. They don't see it harmful, or they're not educated enough, or their parents aren't educated enough. And just going to some of the schools and talking to some of the professors and the teachers, a lot of them already have that perceived idea as, oh no, our kids aren't doing it, you know? So it's like, I think the harm is not there to where they don't know the consequences that can happen. Wow.
They're thinking because a doctor prescribed it.
That it's okay.
safe.
Or that it's legal, it's okay.
That even though they've taken it out of somebody's medicine cabinet, that they either know or don't know that it's okay.
That they think it's okay. And you will find, because with the DFC, they send out pride surveys.
DFC,
So, I'm sorry, Drug Free Coalition, yes. So they do pride surveys for all the schools. So you'd be surprised with the results that actually come back.
So in part of the documents you sent me, there were breakouts
Yes.
of polling for students. So are students mandated to fill out these surveys, or how do you go out and get that information?
Well, we're actually hoping to be conducting one soon because we only had a small portion of our data for the county, and our grant covers all of Cayuga County. So we have all 7 school districts inside of Cayuga County. And as we know, things that happen in Moravia are different than things that happen here in Auburn or, in southern
Sterling
Cayuga or
or
wherever.
okay.
So we're hoping to get those out to the schools. They aren't mandatory, but the kids don't really seem to have a problem answering them because it doesn't have their name on it.
Does anything from the survey, there were things that stood out for me. So,
Okay.
But I'm just somebody who reads stuff and
Yeah.
crunches stuff like that. So tell me, anything stand out in any of the surveys that you've gotten back that really you're like, yikes?
A lot, really.
I'll say we actually just sat in at the Youth Task Force in Moravia, and the results that they got with some of the opiates that some of the kids are seeing was kind of shocking because one of them was meth, and I honestly didn't think that meth was still around, and I guess within like the smaller communities, I guess that is like the hot commodity, I'll say. But most of them were still the same, your alcohol, marijuana, and
So is the coalition,
prescription.
so on that particular note, is the coalition focused, you obviously came into a panel discussion that was focused on other things. It was the treatment issue.
Yeah.
Because there's a $4 million grant there.
Yep, for
There's
SAMHSA for them.
And we had a discussion about that a couple weeks ago here in the studio. Is your focus on alcohol? Is it on all? What do you consider addiction?
Well, addiction would be being addicted to, anything. You can, it's a habit.
But are you going down as far as dealing with people who smoke? Because I noticed that, for example, one of the items which I thought was very interesting was smoke-free zones at Emerson.
Yes.
No, alcohol-free zones at Emerson Park.
Yes. Well,
Explain that to me, because there's obviously a large pavilion there that the county makes money on when they have weddings, and so that wouldn't exactly be alcohol-free because apparently
we're trying
everybody
to
drinks at a wedding.
create. That's not always true.
I know, but I'm just saying. But they do make money off.
Yes, they do
alcohol.
make money off of it. The whole idea of a drug-free or alcohol-free, tobacco-free area, a safe place, is there's a lot of people in this community who are in recovery, and they cannot go up to Emerson Park and be there with their family, maybe their child, maybe they're getting their life back together, and then they're having that temptation thrown in their face of events like, the beer in their face, or somebody maybe walking around smoking. I myself don't like tobacco use around my children. I think, the harms, it's been proved.
So I live across the street from a park that nailed to the tree, which drives me nuts, which is a different issue. There is an anti-smoking, it's clear, it's a public park, but I do know they have concerts there. And
Okay.
I do know that I do see, and they're very good people who come in there with alcohol. Maybe they're not allowed to, but they get rid of it because it's not found afterwards. So they clean the park immensely. Are you saying that you would ask public parks to be alcohol and smoke-free in total?
Yes, not total, I guess, more or less a safe zone. to have a designated area that you
Yeah.
wouldn't be, like, you and I could be at the same event. You want to go have a cocktail, you're going to go over to this area. But I'm going to stay in this
So
designated
it would not necessarily
area.
say that if you were doing an event at the pavilion,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody was doing a wedding or a celebration, that you're not looking at doing that. So I asked that question for a different reason.
Okay.
It does sound like part of the work, that whether you do it among your 4 counties or what you're doing, is you're also going to be making recommendations on policy.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
what's the role for you as policy instigators in a good way? No, I mean that in
Yeah.
a good way, or drivers.
Drivers. I like that one better.
To get people, whether it's the city council, the county legislature, or a town or a village, or a school district.
Mm-hmm.
You know, school districts are easy because they say all playgrounds because they're mandated.
Yeah.
School districts are actually hard.
But
Are they?
yes, that's actually been the
Why?
hardest.
School districts are hard
obstacle.
because, you know, you want them to be involved, but they have a lot of liability that comes with them.
To make them
You know, they don't want
alcohol free?
not alcohol free, but when it comes to pushing for things, you don't,
Okay.
you know, it's that line that you don't want to have the school district put themselves in a weird situation. But we can't lobby for any political stuff. So when you see the policy part of our
And that's what I'm saying,
grant,
policy.
which is kind of weird, we don't lobby for anything. But the big one we're trying to do is a social host policy. Social host policy, I always refer to it as those parents that we call the cookie jar parents. They allow all the kids to come and they throw their keys in the cookie jar and then they're partying, but mom and dad think it's okay because, you know, they're
So
in their
they're-
supervision.
So I can fortunately say this is not in this county, but it is in Onondaga,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in this viewing area because this Time Warner services that next community. So this has come up as an issue with the neighboring Skinny Atlas recently.
Yes.
How would you become involved in providing advice in that particular, or
Well,
would you not participate in that discussion?
Well, I would. I actually brought that up because one of my coworkers, he actually is the one that implemented the social host policy. So I actually brought that to his attention. But I work with YSAP out of Onondaga. So on my perspective, I would like to bring.
Is
It's youth substance abuse prevention. Sorry. But I would like to bring some of them to the table. I would say maybe their faculty, law enforcement, or even start a coalition within Skinny Atlas because of that situation, because I guarantee that's not the first time that's happened, and I won't be the last time it happens. So I think on my perspective, I would like to go in and actually sit down and create a forum and actually talk and to see.
So
what-
I ask this because, are you originally from Cayuga County?
I am.
You are?
Born and raised in Auburn.
Okay, so in 1977, there was a major car crash up by Tom Thumb and killed somebody, unfortunately, and that's generated the CARM program. And up until that time, there was the free use of alcohol almost everywhere. I can tell you that hockey parents went down to Casey Park, and there's a whole group of hockey moms. My mom, God rest her soul, did not die of that particular instance, but they would bring down flasks of Manhattans or martinis because they're on the ice and it was open and in the sense that wind came wiping through. But right after that Dr. Nelson case, almost everybody went dry. It had that seismic event. Do you need to have somebody literally dying? Because you would think under the opiates and the heroin,
opiate side.
that would be the bell. I mean, that would be the fire bell in the middle of the village that everybody's ringing.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it.
Again, that goes.
Or is that a rhetorical question
No,
on my part?
no. It goes back to the fact of that our youth are just different. On our standpoint, that's what we focus on. You know, our youth aren't afraid of things anymore. They're not afraid to try things. They're not afraid to go home. They're not, when they're under the influence of anything, they don't think their parents are going to punish them for it.
What's remarkable to me, and again, I can say this, not being in that life, it's remarkable to me that parents, from a liability standpoint, and also from a common sense point of view, would even allow that.
It's big around graduation time. We see it a lot around graduation time. You know, kids graduate from high school. It's a celebration. What happens? Mom and dad allow all the high school kids to come over and they party
So
in the
Lloyd
backyard.
Hoskins and several others are very involved with the anti-DWI.
Yep, Stop
code. So will you
DWI.
be partnering with organizations like that as well?
Yes, actually, Lloyd and I have a meeting coming up our coalition has tons of community members that sit on the board from different agencies and organizations, so we're kind of all on the same page, and we're just really working to move forward in this community and make a change. It's
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, please.
Well, to piggyback off of you, Stop the DWI is actually pretty big in Oswego County. So with Lloyd, I think it would be great to just do certain things with the youth. Because I remember I was born and raised in Auburn too. So
Okay.
I just remember being at the high school and having different, like the car crash scene. And maybe it didn't impact a lot of people, but it impacted me. You know what I mean? And it's like certain stuff like that that the school doesn't do anymore that I feel that they should bring back for their youth.
So thanks for opening up the door.
She's good at that.
Well, no, but so you said something the other day
Okay.
that I was interested in. Well, I was interested in a lot of things you said the other day.
Okay. Well, I'm
But
glad to hear
you
that.
were asked about what happens when you have these types of events, where there's this public, we've had forums, we've had them here at the college, we've had the cemetery markers at Hoops Park, we've had them in front here, they've been in City Hall. Is there a limited lifespan for their impact? And can you expand on that? Because I don't,
Yeah.
I saw what the quote in the Citizen was. I know you said more, and papers have a limited
Yeah.
amount. You don't have a limited amount here,
Well,
other than time.
My thing is, I think the forums, they're running their course. You can only repeat the same thing so many times before kids aren't going to listen anymore. And the coalition, the whole point, a little spin off of what I was saying at the round table is we need to look at what can we do besides saying no,
Okay.
don't do drugs, no, don't do this. Why are we not informing our kids of other healthy choices that they can go out in the community and do? Whether it's, we're in the heart of the Finger Lakes, we have all these gorgeous gorges that kids could go hiking on, or there's yoga, there's activities, there's different things that we need to start showing our youth in our community what we can do besides alcohol, besides the drugs.
So do you share the same question that was raised that Wednesday morning where it came to with school districts who are going to face budget cuts, and we both went to Auburn. Jeff Perizzola sat in that seat
Yeah.
last Thursday, said, I got a $4 million hole in my budget. The only way you solve that is cutting staff or extracurriculars. And I thought I heard, I don't remember who, I don't think it was you, but somebody mentioned there, that is, it may have been Kevin Harris, it's such a key piece
It is.
It is.
to address this issue. If there are not positive outlets,
Right. And that's a big part of what we're going to be working on is creating those positive outlets.
do you have the money to do that?
We don't have a lot of money. We have $125,000 a year. but
So explain the grant to me just real quickly. So it's $400,000 over 4 years. Is it renewable or is
It
this
is.
seed money?
Well, you get 5 years
Okay.
at $125 a year. Your first year is a little tight because they send the project coordinator and myself to an intense training for 3 weeks.
Okay.
And it's an academy training, so it's intense. You're learning all about
So you're going to be
prevention.
gone the next 3 weeks.
I'm going to be gone for a week, then I come back, then I
Spaces
leave.
out.
They
Okay,
space
space
it
out,
out.
okay.
Yeah.
And then from there, we do a lot of in-kind matches from people where they donate like their time and their, maybe their organization puts up money
So
or
is there a
things like
local
that.
match now? So who applied for this grant? Was it the coalition?
Chad.
So Chad. So does Chad have to provide in-kind services at all?
Kevin's Hairs is in-kind.
Okay, but they're not.
My
literally-
office is in-kind.
But they're not giving. If it's 100, for example, the governor's
They're not
very
matching
big.
it, you mean?
The governor's very big on if he gives $100,000, he wants somebody else to come up with $400,000.
Oh, no.
That is not.
We have to match
We do
125
have to,
each year.
so each year you go up, you have to match. So that's all about,
It's all about matching.
But
Yeah.
could it be people's volunteer time?
Yes.
So when Rob Forsey comes in and attends one of your meetings, it
We
counts
count
for
that.
X.
Yes.
So similar to what a community action program would be able to do with volunteers.
Your free time right now in kind.
Okay, you can stay as long as you want.
Okay.
So with that, you're going to Gulfport. What exactly are you going to be doing in Gulfport?
In trainings.
And you've done this, I'm assuming?
I actually did week 3.
You did week 3, okay.
Yes. Week 1 is more so logic models, because when it comes with the grant, you actually write up a whole action plan for each year. So within the action plan, you write up what it is that you want to implement within your county. So And that's why bringing people to the table each year is nice, because you get different ideas of what events or, marketing campaigns or advertising it is that you want to do with the youth for your county. So the first week is more so her learning more of that and learning logic models and the data about her county. And then she'll be able to come back and implement all of that. And then she'll go again in May. And then the second week is a different focus. Each week is a different focus for the project coordinator.
So how did you become involved in the Prevention Resource Center?
I actually, I come from OPWDD background, which is
It sounds like a song, but what is
well, it's office with people with developmental disabilities.
Okay. All right.
So I got into that in mental health, and then my friend actually got me into it, not to be funny, but because she had an addiction problem, and then she started overcoming it, and then she kind of looked to me as like her outlet. So that kind of drove me to make a change almost, and then it's kind of fate how that kind of happened.
And you're
with
an
the job.
Auburn grad?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how'd you get involved?
I actually got involved because I lost 2 of my cousins last year to a heroin overdose. Before that, though, I had worked in recovery units with juvenile delinquents and the Unity House's halfway house with adults.
Grace House?
Grace House,
Okay.
yes. For some reason, I always seem to come back to it. I like the idea of helping somebody and seeing the change and knowing that they can, make the change. I've seen a lot of people be successful, and I've also seen, like I said, my cousins pass away. So,
Where'd you guys go to school after Auburn?
I went to Norwich University in Northfield, Vermont. It's a military academy,
Okay.
and that's where I got my bachelor's from.
I graduated from SUNY Morrisville.
Okay. We don't have a whole lot of time left here, but I always would like to invite you both back to talk about.
Absolutely.
Because your plan right now is you still have to do a strategic plan. I know you've done some planning, but you're also going to be doing the surveys.
Yes.
So maybe if we could have you back, maybe even in the fall. By fall, will you have your surveys back?
That's
and will
my
you-
goal.
And what else is your goal in the short term?
My I can't talk today. Short-term goal is to create a youth coalition, get that up and running, create a prevention and awareness group, like an event, a big family event, and then get the surveys out. Really is our big thing, getting those surveys out.
Yeah, because I think the goal, I guess, with what I see working with each county is just something to have that outlet for the youth, because times have changed from when we grew up, where we were able to go out and have extra activities that we could do that didn't involve any alcohol or drug use. And I think now, especially within, and I could speak just from Auburn, they don't have that outlet anymore. So I think with the coalition, I feel like they should provide those healthy activities that youth can do, and then be able to show, like, look, you can have fun and you don't have to have a beer, or you don't have to smoke any marijuana, or and just build from there.
So we've scratched just the surface here. We'd love to have you back, and if you are going to have a youth coalition at that point, and you have a youth member, we've done that with the United Way when they've had youth panels. We'd love to have a member of your youth committee to come on as well.
Absolutely, and we would also like to invite you to our Chris Heroin. Heroin.
Yes.
Right? Is that right?
Yeah, you said it right.
H-E-R-R-E-N. Heron, the basketball player from the NBA, former Celtics player, is coming to Auburn.
And when is that?
April 27th. He's going to be, Auburn Public Theater is putting it on. He's going to the middle school first to talk to our middle school students, but he's also doing an event at the high school at 7 p.m. that night. And it's $25, and you can come and listen to him
And is
speak.
that money that goes to the coalition?
No, it's just an awareness event.
Okay.
But his story is amazing. It's been on ESPN. He talks about how he got addicted, right away. He was a heroin addict. And, he's got a great story. He's been very impactful throughout the United States.
Great. We want to thank you both, and thank you for joining us at the last
problem.
minute. We'd love to have you here. Our guests have been Janice Freeman, who is a coordinator for Prevention Resource Center out of Syracuse that does cover Cayuga County, as well as Cayuga County's new drug-free community coalition's project coordinator, JOLYNN MULHOLLAND, for joining us to give us an overview on a very complex and very expansive issue that is going on in all of our communities in upstate. A programming note, we will be off next week for the students in this department to take some exams in the studio. We'll be back on Tuesday, March 14th. On Inside Government will be City Manager Jeff Digert, who will be our guest for a city update, and we'll also likely talk a little bit about baseball, since there seems to be a lot occurring there with the city owning its own baseball team. On Beyond the Front Page, we hope to bring you a special show with representatives of the Make-A-Wish Foundation and local attorney Steve Pisarcik, who has been heading up those local efforts, and they're going to make an announcement here in the studio on the 14th. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll have several Inside Governments, including one with Senator John DeFrancisco. We hope to have Senator Seward in as well. And on Beyond the Front Page, we'll have shows on Cayuga Centers, Cayuga Centers, as well as Seymour Library and the Women's Rights 19K in Seneca Falls, among other topics. Before we go, though, we would like to let you know that you can send us your ideas for questions or for guests. You can contact us at cozguytho@aol.com or at Inside Government or Beyond the Front Page at 141 Dunning Avenue, Auburn, New York. I'd also like to let you know that ARMA is putting our schedule up for the shows. We've expanded, not only so that you can watch us live on YouTube or on the Citizens website, but you can also find us on more often on Verizon, Fios, and Time Warner. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. We want to thank you for watching. We hope you have a good night, have a great tomorrow, and we'll see you in about 2 weeks. And tell us when we're on. Good evening and welcome to Inside Government, a show produced here at Cayuga Community College for the spring 2017 semester and broadcast on Time Warner, Verizon Fios, and through the Auburn Regional Media Access, ARMA, as well as WIN 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. Our guest tonight is Cayuga County Legislative Chairman Keith Batman, who took over the chairmanship of the county legislature in January 2016 when a Democratic majority was elected the previous November. Since the chairman was on Inside Government last fall, a lot has happened on the 6th floor of the county office building. In December, the legislature passed a budget for 2017. The governor released his own budget in January that proposed mandated government consolidation at the local level. And in between, the county administrator, Suzanne Sinclair, the third person to hold that job officially in that position since it was created about a decade ago, decided that she will be leaving her position. And the county legislature on Tuesday night voted on a severance package for her. We'll talk to the chairman about all this and more in the next half hour. Welcome back.
Great to have you.
Be here. So obviously the top news story this week is the legislature agreed to a severance deal with Ms. Sinclair. Why?
As you know from the reading, I'm sure you read the severance agreement. It was for personal reasons, and we all wish her well. She did a yeoman's job. They were a hard group to work with. and
15 of you.
Yes, exactly. And well, there are 14 people that are hard to work with, and then
you.
Me. But we wish her well. At this point, what we're going to attempt to do is we need to move on. So we have a county to manage, and so we're in the process of looking at what that position should look like going forward. We've had a series of meetings with department heads. We're meeting with the legislators. We're meeting with other people to really define.
And you've hired a consultant.
And we're in the process of hiring a consultant to help us work through all of that, so that what we have is a redesigned job description, redesigned relationships as we move forward.
So let's take this piece by piece. Let's deal with, and I know, I'm assuming your answer would be the same as what you told the Citizen on Tuesday, which is we can only say so much on here. Confidentiality is one of the bywords, despite today's editorial in the Citizen on Thursday. With that in play, though, when is her last day, or has it been?
Her last day at work has been.
Okay.
She has some vacation time she's taking, so that goes through March 10th.
And why was there such this large gap? Because I think her original, or your announcement, I think you made the original announcement that she was leaving was more than a month ago. Why did it take? Was it because of the severance package it took so long to do that?
Yeah, and
okay.
There are a lot of pieces to fit together with all of this, and that just takes time.
So there was a severance package. What was it for those people who haven't read the Citizen?
Fundamentally, it's her contract. She had a contract, so I think the amounts are something like $80,000 in that range, maybe a little less.
So more than a year ago, in December 2015, before you took over as chairman, there was a discussion about, and I think it was Tucker Whitman, who represents the Fairhaven area, District 1, had talked about overall eliminating the whole the position.
Right.
Are you at that stage at all as a legislature?
As a legislature, we'll work through. I personally am not.
Okay.
I think we have to have a position. We have to have someone at the helm, and that person has to be a professional. However, one of the things we are going to work through is exactly what the body feels that position should be, how it should relate, what it should look like, and that's critically important so that we get the right person in as we move forward.
But the only way to not fill the position going back to the public and passing another resolution, or could the legislature just go out and just say, we're just not hiring anybody?
We could do that,
okay.
Yes.
So who's in charge right now? In that old Ale Hague, March 81
Right. No, I remember well.
Who's in charge?
What we've done in the interim is we put together a management team that's composed of me, Aileen McNabb Coleman, Ben Vitale, and Jim Orman.
Okay.
And
so county treasurer, 3 members of the legislature.
Yeah, and fundamentally the chair, the vice chair, and the chair Ways and Means.
Is Mr. Vitale or Ms. Coleman?
Vitale is vice chair.
Vice chair,
and,
okay.
And Ms. McNabb Coleman is the majority leader, or chair Ways and Means. So what we've done is we've taken our committee structure and we've divided the committees up among the four of us, so that departments that report to a specific committee are reporting to us in terms of as interim administrators. And so far, that's worked pretty well.
So in doing this, what is the timeline? Who have you hired, first of all, as a consultant, or you're still in process there?
Yes, we are.
You're still in process. Okay.
That's correct.
But there was a name of a firm that was mentioned, I thought, in the media the other day. Are you negotiating with a?
No.
Do you have a firm involved?
No.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I didn't see that report, so I can't comment.
So let
on
me
it.
ask. Okay, let me ask a different question. How much is it going to cost?
Don't know.
Okay.
It's part of the
Well, because I
negotiation.
think there was one
But
legislator who had a question
Yeah.
about whether he had to go to bidding.
if anything that any service agreement that costs more than $5,000 has to be bid.
Even for professional services?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And there are loopholes and some exemptions to that, I'm sure, but this would not be one of them.
Okay, so this is a three-part question. First part, how long will it take to get a consultant on?
Hopefully not long, less than a month.
So will that go before the legislature again?
No, that's the...
Because you think it'll be under $5,000?
Yes.
Okay. Item two then, part of that is, how long will it take them to do their work? Because they're going to be looking at the position, what other people think about how it's structured, and they're going to report back, I'm assuming, to the legislature as a whole. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, their charge will primarily be to help the legislature work through what it wants. The reason for getting other people's input is to inform the legislature. So this is a position which works in the context of the county overall. It's a large organization. It's important to understand that context. But fundamentally, what this person will do is facilitate a discussion among the legislators about how we need to move forward.
And their report would be coming by the end of spring, beginning of summer, fall?
Part of this whole process of negotiating with whatever consultant is identified, part of this will be that timeline, the cost, and so on. What I would hope is that we actually have gone through this process and we actually have someone in that position by the end of summer.
Okay,
That's
so
my hope.
going through